Hey everyone, Chris Sawyer here. The Varietal Show is back. I am here in Dry Creek Valley and at one of my favorite wineries, Nalle Vineyards, right here, Nalle Dry Creek. You know, for me and just my heritage of being a sommelier and you know, a wine writer, I would consider Nalle one of my favorite like cult wines. And I say cult in saying that, you know, there's very small wineries that people, once you taste it the first time, you get really into it. Where is it? Oh, you've got it on your list. Oh my God, that's so amazing. And it's one of those small wineries that, you know, I fell in love with back in the 90s. And here I am. We're going to be celebrating the 40-year anniversary of Dry Creek Valley as an AVA, an American Viticultural Area. But it's also the 40-year anniversary of Nalle Winery, too. And to my super left over here is Lee Nalle, and definitely the amazing daughter-in-law, April. And just wanted to really kind of get into a couple of these wines right now and to tell you a little bit more about the history of this family. And Lee grew up here. This is an amazing story, Lee, that we're on a piece of property that your family owned. And still does, I think. But Lee, tell us a little bit about this. This is like, Healdsburg's changed a little bit. Let's just say that. It's definitely changed. But, you know, you were here back in the old days, in the 50s, like when people were picking prunes was in. I mean, that's what you did. If you knew how to pick prunes, and this woman knew how to pick prunes. As a child, she was drinking black coffee because she knew it. And you would party, you would have a great summer until it became the picking season for the prunes. And you would get out there and you would do your hardest job. And until that season was over, they wouldn't start the high school. What? Are you kidding me? It's true, though, isn't it, Lee?
It is true, yes. I'm very fortunate to have been born here, and my parents were born here, my grandparents. And even before that, my great-grandfather came to Dry Creek in about 1896, and my grandparents bought this ranch in 1927 and planted these Zinfandel vines. And the fact that we've been able to keep it in the family for 5 generations is just amazing to me. And but of course we have to mention Doug, my husband, whose idea it was, and then our son Andrew, who's married to April, got into it's all because we fell in love that we got involved in this winery business. But I'm so happy to be able to live in such a beautiful valley and make a living.
Yeah. And one of the pieces of the property, you drive in here, this is right off of Dry Creek Road, but you drive right onto the property, and that's the oldest vines. Those are pretty old. Those are gnarly old vines. Remember, the part right behind us right behind me is the old block from the 50s, 1956, I believe, 1954. And this one out here is a little bit of a Carignan block. Or is this Zinfandel? That's Zinfandel there, but that was planted in 1988, correct?
Right.
See, I'm getting my numbers right, you guys. Don't doubt me. 1988 would be 5 years after you started the winery and after this became an AVA. Let's figure out our numbers there. But the old one in the front, when was that planted?
1927.
1927. Wow.
And it's mostly all Zin, maybe 2% Carignan. My grandfather was telling me about it, and he hired these 2 guys to plant it, and they didn't do a great straight job, but it's held up even during the drought, and it's amazing that it's dry farmed and the roots go down so deep, and it's they're amazing.
Well, you know, one of the things we were talking about before we came on the air is this is a really lovely style of Zinfandel. You know, you guys out there, you think about Zinfandel, oh, hearty, oh man, 16.1% alcohol, wow, you know, barbecue. And this is more like, I just like drinking it. It's a lovely, kind of delicate style of Zinfandel. And I think that really shows a lot because the alcohol level on this is always under 14%. And that's the old traditional style. We call it old school, or kind of what the philosophy of the old vintners were thinking back in the old days, because you wanted to take as much natural acidity as you could. And I think you guys have done such a great job with that. I mean, you know, being the viticulturalist that she is, with a degree from Australia, and obviously very necessary person on this property and this family. It's interesting to farm these vines. They're old, gnarly vines. They all have their little personalities. What's it like?
Oh, it's fun. When I'm out there pruning, I just kind of look at each one and I think how different they are and how unique each one is, and you kind of see how the next vintage forms itself. And really what I like to think about is sitting out here, we could be in the 30s, we could be in the 50s, we could be in the 60s, and we could be having wine from those grapes. And in some ways it could be a similar style because we have a very traditional, almost old-fashioned way of making wine.
Yeah.
And it's bright, it's elegant, it's aged in French oak.
Yep.
I mean, Doug and my husband, Andrew, they're in the cellar almost every day.
Yeah.
They're the ones making the wine. They're the ones hands in the wine, smelling the wine, tasting the wine, and they just have this DNA of Nalle. I mean,
it's true.
We're known for Zin, but it's more. I would say, it's Nalle is synonymous with Zin, I would say, but it's more of our style of Zin that really has been such a driving force of Nalle. Yeah,
I'll give a lot of credit to our good friends at the Zinfandel Advocates and Producers, a great organization that you guys have been a part of. And this past January, I was able to do a great seminar there called Flights with our great friend Joel Peterson, the founder of Ravenswood. But Doug was on that panel. You were supposed to be on that panel,
I
but
think it was good Doug was
that's
there.
okay. Doug was on the panel, and our great friend Tonya Pitts from One Market was kind of like his sidekick for that. And it was just a great discussion about what, Doug, to be really honest, didn't really have any training. He wasn't really, that's not why he came here. He came because of his passion for wine, brought him to this area. He bought a house, in Healdsburg, started working for Chateau Souverain, just out of passion,
He did get a master's of fermentation from Davis.
But when was that? Was that before?
No, that was
Yeah.
1970.
See, exactly. After.
After he knew how to do it.
Get the stats right.
I just wanted to throw that in because he's very smart.
I'm getting to another point that he met Lee. That's the most important point here.
He
met Lee. They fell in love, you guys, because of their dogs they had. And this is an amazing story. April. No, I'm just kidding. But, the whole fact is, this was a time when, before this became an AVA, this was just a very primitive, lovely place, where prune trees were everywhere, the plums were still there, and Zinfandel was what was planted here. There wasn't much else than Zinfandel and Petit Syrah and Carignan. There wasn't all the new plantings of the Grenache and Barbera and Cabernet or anything. This is an old traditional zone here in California. You got to grow up here. I mean, you were a Healdsburg High Greyhound.
That's
you
right.
and Dave Raffinelli still do the high school reunions. I mean, you want to talk about old school. This is an amazing place. You got to grow up here. Isn't it amazing?
It is. But I may not have stayed here if I had fallen in love with this guy that was in love with Healdsburg. He should have worked for the Chamber of Commerce when he got here. In 1973, he said, Lee, this is the most beautiful place I've ever seen. And I'm not going anywhere.
Yeah. So I love this Zinfandel. It is really amazing. It's 91% Zin. It's got 6% Petit Syrah and 3% Carignan in it, right there. And the next one that we're going to taste is the amazing Ranch Red. And to me, this is like, Zinfandel. This is still Zinfandel based, but it's got a little bit more of the other ingredients in here.
Right.
Tell us a little bit about this, April.
Okay, so this is what we call, actually, lovingly, our Super Tuscan, because it's a non-traditional blend. It's 40% estate cab, 60% Zin. And so kind of the concept of our Ranch Red was to have a bottle of wine that you could just open up after a long day on the ranch or work that was texturally immediately pleasing right away. I mean, Nalle's meant to age, and it is ageable, and it's under 14%, but the texture, the grape blending component itself is immediately a little bit bigger from the cab.
Yeah.
And
so cab, you heard it right. Cab with Zinfandel blended together. That's right.
But so it is non-traditional. But then I was doing some research, And a lot of the times, like the older, just Italian families, you just made the wine that was off the prop. You blended up what was ever on there.
Classic field
Yeah,
blends.
Yeah, classic field.
Right.
So
I
yeah.
just wanted to say about the name, the Ranch Red. When I was growing up, and my grandparents lived out here, and my dad would always go out, and he'd always say, "I'm going out to the ranch." So we always called this property the ranch, which you would think you'd call it the vineyard or something, but no, this is the ranch, and so that's the origin of the Ranch Red name.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it. Has a lot of texture to it. This is
Yeah.
like, I think even more, the other one is more acid driven. This one's more of a textural
Yeah.
one where you're like, oh, ooh, I just like the texture in here and how it's kind of filling the mouth with pleasurable notes of fruit,
Yeah.
And it's just like so good. It's just, I mean, it smells beautiful. It's not, the good thing is it's very balanced as far as the oak is concerned. It's just a really textured wine.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to describe. Like texture, very pleasing, almost immediately, and it it doesn't have to age forever in the bottle
Right.
to get there.
Right.
Yeah, yeah.
It's amazing stuff, and I hope you guys enjoyed this show. But this is Nalle Winery, and it's their 40-year anniversary. It's the 40-year anniversary of Dry Creek Vineyard, or Dry Creek Valley, and the vineyards of Dry Creek Valley. For sure, and it's a special time. You guys get to Healdsburg area, it's a must visit. There's no doubt about that. But if you find Nalle on wine lists across America, which good restaurants you can, sometimes at least, I would highly recommend it. It's just a great family-owned property. Obviously, we're with two of the great members of the family right now, but it's just a fun thing. You get out here, please visit them. So, cheers to you guys,
Cheers.
and if you want to look them up, nallewinery.com. Cheers!
Cheers.